It's a bit of an overcast day today, and it's a little bit cooler out, which has been a welcome change. It actually took me a few hours to pull these out from where they were stowed and get them set up. And today, I got to get the Blazer up on the ramps. We have a fuel leak to sort out. You probably remember my video from many years ago. Maybe you don't at all, and that's okay. Where I did a quick, cheap fix on a leaking fuel line. I'm going to show you that today, but I'm also going to show you the right way and more permanent way to do it. So let's get that truck up here now. So it appears as though the leak is right around here, and it is active, and that does look like the high pressure line. We're going to get that all cleaned up and double check to see what's going on. It looks to me like it comes from the fuel filter, and that's where the leak is happening. I will clean up those lines and double check. They do look pretty grungy. We shall see what happens here. When you're going to work on a fuel line, one of the things you want to do is relieve the pressure in it before you start playing around. You definitely don't want high pressure fuel spraying around under the vehicle. It is unavoidable to have a little bit of a drip here and there, but we can certainly relieve some pressure and make this a whole lot nicer for us. So this particular engine happens to run on about 60 pounds of fuel pressure, give or take a little bit. And it does have a fuel pressure port, which is actually kind of hidden behind my power wires. Right in the back of the engine block, there's a line that comes in there. And that port is where you can actually measure the fuel pressure from the pump before the intake, for the manifold. So it's basically like a Schrader valve, your tire valve. It's got a spring-loaded stem that you can press down on, and what it'll do is relieve the pressure in the line. So something like a sharp pointed screwdriver will do the job, and we can gently press that. And it's funny, I had almost no fuel pop out of this port, so that tells me that it definitely had bled out already through the hole that's in that line, because it does appear to be on the high pressure side. So I'm going to put that cap back on just to keep everything clean, and then we're going to go under the vehicle. So some basic tools that you'll use for this type of a job: line wrenches, or flare nut wrenches, whatever you want to call them. A flaring set is always handy to have. This is kind of a typical one that you'll find at an auto parts store. You can also rent these things, so you don't have to go out and buy it. A tubing cutter can come in handy. Vice grips are great. Your actual line that you're going to be using as a replacement, which can be steel, or in some cases when it's only a short repair, you can use rubber and gear clamps. You just have to make sure that that hose is rated for fuel injection. And from my experience, there are a few different styles. Some had more reinforcement than others. The ones with more reinforcement were rated for higher pressure systems. So that's just something to keep in your mind. A basic socket set, some box wrenches, pliers, screwdrivers, that kind of stuff, and you should be able to get by. Definitely don't forget your safety glasses and a catch can for any fuel you might drop. So looking underneath, this would be my main feed line going into my filter, and then from my filter, this line continues along through a flex joint, snakes up inside the transmission tunnel, and goes up to the back of the motor where that Schrader valve is that we let the pressure out of. So it's pretty obvious that my leak is in that area where there's no more undercoat and it's pretty clean. I'm just looking at the line that I currently have as replacement and what's here existing. I may not have the right size line. What I'm gonna do is take a section of line off first, and we're gonna compare what I have and what I need and make sure I get the right stuff, because it's not a lot of fun getting into a project with the wrong parts. So when I cut this line and open it up, more than likely it's going to start leaking, and that's even just because of gravity. If this line is lower than the fuel tank itself, more than likely we can create a vacuum effect and draw the fuel out. So the solution to that is a piece of rubber hose that we can quickly slide over the existing line once we've cut it. And all we do is plug the end of the hose with something. A bolt is even sufficient, just to keep that fuel from giving it a chance to go anywhere. So I'm going to open this line up and we're going to see what we get. See if I can't open this joint up first, and that will hopefully, I'll have to reuse that flare nut if I can. Let's see what we can come up with here. So the section of supply line that I removed with the original flex joint on it, I cleaned the area that was what I thought was leaking, but it turns out it's not. The leak is actually coming from the return line. It is rusted where it sits on the hanger, which is a pretty common issue. So in this scenario, the return line takes almost nothing for pressure returns. So it's going to get a piece of line, a piece of fuel line, just to patch that section that's no good. A pretty simple repair in itself. We're going to cut the tubing on both ends and sleeve on our rubber and be done. I'm going to get the other feed line back on probably after I repair this line, because I've got good access right now, and that'll be the end of that. Now we're dealing with the gravity feed situation from the engine, or from the fuel tank end. There it goes. So you can see how that, this is just from the top end. You can see how that could quickly drain your fuel tank. And this is where the rubber hose with the plug comes into play. And we're just going to clean that line up first. Luckily, gasoline is great at cleaning things. So the bit of line that we cut out, you can see the corrosion in it. Likely it's just kind of a pinhole. I think I see it actually right there. And that was just the way the line was sitting inside that pocket. So it's not a surprise that salt and any other debris might sit there and then slowly eat through this line. But anyway, in this scenario, because this is a return, the rubber line patch is the rubber line patch is going to be perfect for this scenario. We're not going to have any troubles for that for a long time. So I'm going to clean up the other end of this line just with some fuel on a rag and get it ready for the rubber line patch piece to slide in place. We've got our patch line installed now. It's not leaking. So the next step is to put my main supply line back in. See if I can show you that. There's the end of the filter, and the other end of the line snakes all the way over toward the front of the truck. So we're gonna feed that in now. The one flare nut was pretty stuck on the end of that line, so I have to unfortunately rotate the entire line to get it in there. But this portion of line, as you can see there, is still pretty clean and safe to use for me, so I'm going to reinstall it and go from there. It's even got a good O-ring on it still. There is an O-ring on both ends of this line, so we're going to make sure that those stay so we don't end up with any leaks. So I remounted the fuel filter. I've got my fuel supply line back in position. The flex line tied back into the hard line that goes up to the back of the intake manifold, and then I have my return line with my inline rubber patch now. And I only removed, let's see here, about 3 inches of line, just where it was really rough and rusted through. You can see a couple of pits and pinholes in it, so it's no surprise there that we had a leak. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And we did lose a little bit of fuel in there, not a ton, but it's that effect that we're down lower than what the tank is, so it creates a draw and it starts pulling from the tank itself. Had I pushed air back through the return line and cleared the line out, it might not have happened again, but for what it is, it's not that big of a problem. I'm okay with it. I think we're ready to start it and see what's going on. So again, this is the dirty quick fix with just a couple of gear clamps and a piece of rubber hose. Originally, when I talked about this repair, I was thinking we were going to have to be doing some hardline type work. This is not the case today. I think we've dodged another one. So I do have the intention of replacing the lines on this truck. It is just a matter of when. A few other things need to fall into place before I'm ready to tackle that, but sometimes a repair happens before you want it to, and you don't have a choice but to play along. So this is just going to keep me rolling down the road for a little while, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so let's get this started and see where we're at. Alright, so when we started this video, I thought we were going to be dealing with some high pressure line and hard line repair with the flare all that fun stuff, but turned out to just be the return low pressure line, so a bit of rubber hose and we're good to go for now. Now I get the joys of putting those ramps somewhere else, getting them put away and cleaned up. And then maybe I'll start cutting my weeds, get them trimmed down so they look a little bit better kept than what they are now. Anyways, folks, much appreciated when you guys check these things out and watch them. I definitely wouldn't complain if you were to leave a comment or hit the like button or even subscribe if you're interested in seeing more of this kind of stuff. Anyways, have a good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever the heck it is, and we'll see you next time around. Cheers.